just off his plane and trip home. Scott Peters. Good morning, Representative Scott Peters.
Good morning.
So yesterday, after this big vote and the Republicans were celebrating there in the House, they got on a bus. And tell us what was happening. What you were doing yesterday in Washington.
Well, so I walk out in the parking lot, and on one side you have these protesters yelling, you know, shame on you, and we're really agitated and angry. On the other side, there's a Capitol Police bus with apparently cases of Bud Light on it, going to shuttle people over to the White House to celebrate. So it was really a tale of two sides of the parking lot anyway.
Two sides of the parking lot.
So you voted against it. Tell us why.
Yeah, I think it's a real shame for a lot of reasons. There's two questions here. One is what's the state of Obamacare, and two, does this bill fix it? First of all, there's a lot Obamacare has done. In California in particular, our uninsured rate is down to 5% in my district, premiums have been increases have been slower by quite a bit. It was 20% over the last 5 years since 2011, 31% the 5 years before that, 63% the 5 years before that. There's a lot more work we need to do, and in some places it's not working. And Iowa's always the one cited. Virginia, Iowa, some markets it's not working. So we should fix that, okay? But on the second problem is that this bill doesn't do that. Brookings Institution says that this will raise the average premium 13% more than under Obamacare. We saw that in Kaiser Family...
For some age groups, right?
Average. But just say on that, a Kaiser Family Foundation said that if you're a senior in making $50,000 in 2020 in San Diego, you can expect your premiums to go up an additional $3,000. So we haven't addressed the problem, and that's the real sad thing, Carlos and Lisa, is that we're in a position to say, let's bring in people who might answer the questions for us, insurance companies, doctors, hospitals, patient groups. What is it we need to do to fix it? We skipped right over that, went to this vote on a bill that now all those groups oppose. And that's your best evidence that this is a bad idea. 24 million people is the latest number we got kicking off of health care. And really, we didn't achieve anything except a political victory here that's really not going to do Americans or San Diegans any good at all.
All right, so Scott, but you mentioned Virginia, and just, you know, big news out of Virginia is that Aetna is pulling out of the Obamacare exchange, and lots of other big insurers are pulling out. So, I mean, the writing was on the wall with this thing, that it was about to fail anyway.
It's not, though. So I talked to Aetna.
Okay, tell me.
We talked to some of the insurers in the last couple of months about what would it take to keep you in. And there's a few things they told us to do. One, you know, there's a little bit complicated, but, you know, let's make sure that these subsidies are there so that they can count on them as they plan their business going forward. Let's make sure we get younger people in, whether it's a mandate or automatic enrollment, or modifying plans for younger people to get them in the pool, because that makes it cheaper for everyone. And then there's a concept of reinsurance, which is a lot different from this $8 billion that the Republicans threw at this. That's not going to be near enough. But reinsurance is a more efficient way to cover those really high-cost people without distinguishing them from the rest of the pool. The insurance companies told us, if you do that, then, you know, that's basically what we need to stay in the business. And we didn't do any of that. So we shouldn't be surprised that, you know, they make most of their money on group plans, and remember, only about 10% are in the individual markets. Most get it from their employers. So we shouldn't be surprised that we didn't respond to those market concerns, that the market's responding to what we didn't do.
I have a technical question about that piece. The technical question is, yeah, the Obamacare, now Trump care, you said like 10% of people really are on that.
On the individual market.
On the individual market. Well, what about those people, how does that affect those people that go get insurance through their employer? Now, the question is, I mean, are their insurance premiums going to go up too? Excellent
question. And what you would think we would do is wait for the Congressional Budget Office to give us the independent analysis before we go take a vote on the House floor. We had a Congressional Budget Office analysis before, talking about premium increases, but we have Brookings and we have Kaiser. But the Congressional Budget Office, now that we voted, will come out and tell us what this costs us, and we'll get a lot more information on that. But we do think that it will affect the employer markets too, that those plans will also rise in cost.
You know, there's so much minutia here that it will make your head explode, go through all of this. But
that's why I'm so happy to be home.
So let's talk about the political aspects of this, because Donald Trump needed a political victory. He needed to show the country that he could get his guys together, all the Republicans together, and get this through. Now it goes to the Senate. The Senate's going to go through the same kind of machinations. How much impact will Donald Trump have on the Senate? It sounds like the Senate has its own mind and will do its own thing, and everything will go back to conference, where your side side and the Republicans will have a chance to get together to try to fix this whole thing.
Yeah, and just on that, look, people are really frustrated that more's not getting done. I think one of the things that Donald Trump promised people that they're hopeful about is that stuff will happen.
Yeah.
And it wasn't happening with Congress. And I'll just tell you, as far as sides, again, I go back there I've been talking to Republicans about what we could do to actually fix this and actually work the problem. So on that, I'm really trying not to pick sides. And sometimes we'll always disagree. We disagreed yesterday, but we could do better to get to the middle. And I'm yeah. It'll go to the Senate. We say that we hear that it's not likely to survive in its current form. And so you know, we'll see what comes out of it, but you know, we're just sort of surprised over the last couple of days that this even came up. So we know at least 4 Republican senators have said they can't support this, so it'll be different.
I have a question about the pre-existing conditions, because I know that's a huge issue for a lot of folks. So you know, the hang up there is that the states have the option to opt out of that mandate to ensure people with pre-existing conditions and ensure that their premiums don't skyrocket just because of that. Now, in a state like California, I don't see Jerry Brown or any legislator in the state of California opting out. So really, what would be the downside in our state?
For us?
Yeah.
Well, I think one thing you have to be concerned about is that the level of Medicaid support will be reduced. And that's going to raise premiums for everybody and cut a lot of people off insurance. And the thing on this whole notion that it's not going to cut off pre-existing conditions coverage is wrong, because you know, the limit that you remove is the ability to charge whatever you want. So I could tell you, you know, you're totally free to buy a Rolls Royce. You have access to a Rolls Royce. That may not be any good for you if you can't afford it. And that's kind of what this pre-existing condition health care is going to look like for families.
Or the maintenance on a Rolls Royce.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
But so it's really not, it doesn't really answer the question in a way that we should, in a way we owe Americans and San Diegans.
So I guess we'll wait and see what happens in the Senate. Yeah.
Right.
All right. Let's talk about what's happening in North Korea, because I know a lot of people here, obviously in your district as well, have family and loved ones on the Carl Vinson in that Korean peninsula. What is the latest there? What do you think about trying to find a way to neutralize this threat?
Well, I think it's clearly one of the most vexing challenges for the country, North Korea. And we've tried a strategy of kind of hoping China would apply more pressure. I think that still is the most important thing. 90% of North Korea's trade goes through China. We need them as an ally, so I'm glad President Trump stopped insulting them, started working with China. That's progress. And I also think that you know, that it's important in international circles to raise that as an issue, because it really is an issue. It's not just an issue for us. In the future, it's an issue for Tokyo and Seoul today. And then the other thing, I think it's important to slow down the tweets about North Korea. There's no reason to poke this guy in the eye, because we don't know anything about his stability, whether he would react in a way that's you know, really dangerous or disproportionate. So I generally think that this is that we're on the right path to work China diplomatically and to ratchet up the heat in terms of sanctions. We took a vote on that yesterday in the House, too. That was unanimous.
To ratchet up the sanctions. So what does that really mean, though?
Well, it's harder because, you know, North Korea is really not engaged in the world economy. So, you know, we threatened to shut off the lights in Iran, which wants to be a player in the economy. They want to grow. They want to participate. That means something to Iran. North Korea, I don't know that they care.
They're so isolated.
They're so isolated, insular, so focused on keeping their regime in place. It doesn't have the same effect, but that's why China is so important. I mean, they don't get food or electricity or anything without the cooperation of China. We need to tell China that we'll work with them. We also need to provide China some assurance that there will be stability if they work with us. And I think if North Korea would dismantle its nuclear program, then we should also commit to help North Korea's economic development and help it grow up a little bit away from this authoritarian and really dangerous state that it is today.
One last final issue that I just want to address. I was surprised yesterday when I saw this come up in the news and all the talk about the Russians influencing the U.S. election and having a foreign government influencing any kind of part of our election. Pops this commercial. I want to get your reaction to President Obama endorsing a presidential candidate in a foreign country. Watch.
I have admired the campaign that Emmanuel Macron has run. He has stood up for liberal values. He put forward a vision for the important role that France plays in Europe and around the world. And he is committed to a better future for the French people. He appeals to people's hopes and not their fears.
Okay, so your reaction to the former president of the United States doing this in France?
Well, I don't have any problem with this. One, he's not president. He's a private citizen. I think it's interesting that his endorsement would mean something in France. They must think it does. But it would be comparable to Vladimir Putin actually coming on the microphone and saying, I endorse Donald Trump, which is not what happened. What happened was a manipulation through really a cyber attack of our election, and that's a different thing.
Barack Obama did not. They're investigating that.
No,
we don't really have any definitive proof.
All the intelligence.
But not from Vladimir Putin directly.
Well, okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that's possible that they did that without his knowledge, right? I mean, I just don't buy that. But anyway, but it's a totally different thing. If Barack Obama did not try to sabotage the emails of Marine Le Pen so that his candidate would win, it's totally two different things. One's above board and on the record and over the airwaves, and one's was really an attack on America, and we should all be concerned about that.
Very interesting, though, to see that commercial yesterday. It surprised a lot of people.
Yeah. It's different.
It's different.
That's out there. All right. Scott Peters, always great to see you. I'm so glad you made it back home.
I'm so glad I'm home.
How long are you home? How long are you back here?
I'm doing a little travel in California this week, but we're home. We're not in Congress till a week from Tuesday.
A week from Tuesday. Okay, so
he's been working hard.
He'll be around.
Yeah, they work me pretty hard here, too, by the way.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm up early today.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks.
Back with more Good Morning San Diego in just a moment.